There's a moment that comes to every person who has ever achieved anything worthwhile. It's the moment when everything inside them says, I can't go on, but something deeper whispers, you must. When was the last time you felt tired and still did what you needed to do anyway? I mean really tired. Not just sleepy, but that bone-deep weariness that makes your whole body feel heavy and your mind foggy. That moment when every fiber of your being says, not today, and the couch looks more appealing than your goals. You see, tiredness is the great equalizer. It visits the rich and the poor, the young and the old, the ambitious and the lazy. But here's what separates those who build extraordinary lives from those who settle for ordinary ones. What they do when tiredness knocks on their door. Most people, when they feel tired, they stop. They say, I deserve a break. I've worked hard enough. I'll start again tomorrow. And you know what? Tomorrow they're tired again. Because tiredness isn't just physical. It's mental. It's emotional. And if you don't learn to work with it, it will work against you for the rest of your life. I remember years ago I was building my business and I had been working long days, week after week. One evening I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. My wife said, Jim, why don't you just rest tonight? And part of me wanted to. Part of me was ready to collapse on that couch and forget about the work waiting for me. But something inside me said, no, not tonight. Tonight you push through. So I went to my desk, opened my books, and worked for 2 more hours. And you know what happened? Those 2 hours changed everything. Not because of what I accomplished in those 2 hours, but because of what I proved to myself. I proved that I could move when I didn't feel like moving. I proved that I was stronger than my tiredness. That's the first thing you need to understand about tiredness. It's not always telling you the truth. Sometimes it's lying to you. Sometimes it's your body's way of testing your commitment. Sometimes it's your mind's way of protecting you from discomfort. But if you always listen to it, if you always give in to it, you'll never know what you're truly capable of. Now let me be clear. I'm not talking about ignoring your health. I'm not talking about working yourself into the ground. Your body needs rest and you should give it rest. But there's a difference between needing rest and wanting comfort. There's a difference between being genuinely exhausted and being habitually lazy. And most of the time when we say we're too tired, we're really saying we're too comfortable. Think about it. When something exciting happens, when opportunity knocks, how quickly does that tiredness disappear? When your child needs you in the middle of the night, when there's an emergency, when someone offers you something you really want, suddenly you have energy. Suddenly you can move. Why? Because your reasons changed. Because your motivation became stronger than your tiredness. The second thing you need to understand is that your internal voice, that voice that says, I'm too tired, gets stronger every time you listen to it. Every time you give in, every time you choose comfort over action, that voice grows louder and more convincing. It starts to sound reasonable. It starts to sound like wisdom, but it's not wisdom. It's weakness dressed up as common sense. I've watched this happen to so many people over the years. They start with big dreams and strong intentions, but little by little, day by day, they start listening to that voice. I'm too tired to exercise today. I'm too tired to read that chapter. I'm too tired to make those phone calls. And before they know it, they've built a life around avoiding discomfort, around choosing the easy path, around giving in whenever things get tough. But successful people, they understand something different. They understand that the voice that says, I'm too tired, is the same voice that will say, I'm too busy tomorrow, I'm too stressed next week, and I'm too old next year. It's not really about being tired. It's about resistance. It's about the part of you that wants to stay small, stay safe, stay exactly where you are. You see, comfort is seductive. It promises you relief, rest, ease. But comfort is also dangerous because it's never satisfied. Give it an inch and it wants a mile. Rest for 1 day and it asks for 2. Skip 1 workout and it suggests you skip the whole week. Comfort doesn't want you to grow. It wants you to stay exactly where you are because change requires discomfort. I learned this lesson from a farmer I met years ago. He told me, Jim, crops don't grow in comfort, they grow under stress. A little water stress makes the roots go deeper. A little wind makes the stem stronger. If you protect a plant from all discomfort, you get a weak plant. And I thought, what's true for plants is true for people. We don't grow in comfort. We grow when we push through discomfort. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They think successful people don't get tired. They think wealthy people, fit people, accomplished people somehow have more energy than everyone else. That's not true. They get tired too. The difference is they've learned to separate how they feel from what they do. They've learned that feelings are temporary, but actions create permanent results. I remember reading about a famous writer who said he never waited for inspiration to write. He said, I write when I'm inspired and I write when I'm not inspired. Because if I only wrote when I felt like it, I'd write about 3 days a year. The same is true for any area of life. If you only act when you feel energetic, you'll act about 3 days a year. The third thing you need to understand is the cost of giving in. And I don't just mean the obvious cost, like missed opportunities or delayed goals. I'm talking about the hidden costs, the cost to your character, your self-respect, your confidence in your own word. Every time you tell yourself you're going to do something and then don't do it because you're tired, you're teaching yourself that your word doesn't mean much. You're teaching yourself that you can't be counted on, even by yourself. And if you can't count on yourself, who else will count on you? I've seen people destroy their self-confidence one broken promise at a time. Not promises to other people, but promises to themselves. I'll start my diet on Monday. Monday comes, they're tired, so they start Tuesday. Tuesday comes, they had a long day, so they'll start next week. Before long, they stop making promises to themselves altogether because they know they won't keep them, but it goes deeper than that. When you consistently choose comfort over action, you're training your mind to be weak. You're teaching your willpower to be unreliable. You're building habits of giving up, habits of taking the easy way out, habits of being ordinary. Here's something most people don't realize. Your brain is always watching what you do. It's taking notes. It's building a file on who you really are based on your actions, not your intentions. When you say you'll do something and then don't do it because you're tired, your brain writes it down. This person doesn't follow through when things get uncomfortable. When you choose the couch over the gym, your brain writes it down. This person chooses easy over hard. When you pick entertainment over education, your brain writes it down. This person values pleasure over progress. And after enough entries in that file, your brain stops believing you when you say you want to change. It stops expecting great things from you. It starts to see you as someone who talks a good game but doesn't deliver when it matters. That's why so many people struggle with self-doubt. It's not because they lack ability. It's because they've trained their own mind to see them as unreliable. I knew a woman who wanted to write a book. She talked about it for years. She had the ideas, the passion, the story to tell. But every evening when she sat down to write, she was tired, so she'd watch television instead. Just for tonight, she'd tell herself. Tomorrow I'll write. But tomorrow never came. After 3 years of this, she stopped talking about the book. Not because she didn't want to write it anymore, but because she couldn't bear to make another promise she wouldn't keep. Her own mind had given up on her dreams before anyone else did. The cost of constantly giving in to tiredness isn't just what you don't accomplish. It's who you don't become. It's the erosion of your self-trust, your self-respect, your belief in your own potential. It's the slow transformation from someone who believes they can do anything to someone who wonders if they can do anything worthwhile at all. Think about the compound effect of this over time. One day of giving in because you're tired doesn't seem like much, but one day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 month, 1 month becomes 1 year, and 1 year becomes a lifetime of wondering what could have been if you had just pushed through when it was hard. I remember talking to a man who was about 60 years old. He had dreams when he was young. He wanted to start a business, get in shape, learn new skills, but he was always tired, always had a reason to wait, always had an excuse to delay. And now, 30 years later, he looked at me with regret in his eyes and said, "Jim, I wish I had known then what I know now. I wish I had known that tiredness was just a feeling, not a fact. I wish I had known that I could do things even when I didn't feel like doing them." Don't let that be your story. Don't let tiredness rob you of your dreams. Don't let comfort steal your potential. Because here's what I've learned after all these years. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. Now let me give you some practical strategies for moving when you feel tired. Because knowing why you should do something isn't enough. You need to know how to do it. First, start with 5 minutes. When you feel too tired to exercise, commit to 5 minutes. When you feel too tired to read, commit to 5 minutes. When you feel too tired to work on your project, commit to 5 minutes. Why 5 minutes? Because 5 minutes isn't overwhelming. Your tired mind can handle 5 minutes. But here's what happens. Once you start, momentum kicks in. Once you're moving, it's easier to keep moving. And even if you only do 5 minutes, you've kept your promise to yourself. You've proven that you can move when you don't feel like moving. Second, prepare when you're strong for when you'll be weak. Don't wait until you're tired to decide what to do. Decide when you're energetic and motivated. Write down your plan. Set up your environment. Make it as easy as possible to do the right thing when you don't feel like doing anything. I learned this from athletes. They don't decide whether to train based on how they feel that morning. They have a schedule. And they follow the schedule regardless of how they feel. The decision is already made. The only question is execution. Here's a strategy that changed my life. I call it the no decision decision. You make the decision once when you're clear-headed and motivated, and then you never make it again. You decide you're going to exercise every morning at 6. You don't wake up at 6 and decide whether you feel like exercising. The decision was already made. You just execute. This works because decision-making requires energy. And when you're tired, you don't have energy to waste on decisions. You have just enough energy to follow a plan that's already been made. So make your important decisions when you're at your best, and then follow them when you're at your worst. Third, use what I call the 2-minute rule. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Don't think about it. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't wait until you feel like it. Just do it. Why? Because most of the things we put off aren't big things. They're small things that pile up and create overwhelm. By handling small things immediately, you free up mental space for the big thing. Fourth, use the buddy system. Find someone who will hold you accountable. Tell them your goals, your plans, your commitments. When you're tired and want to quit, they'll remind you why you started. They'll help you push through when your own motivation fails. But choose your accountability partner carefully. Don't pick someone who will let you off the hook. Don't pick someone who will say, "Oh, you had a hard day. It's okay to skip today." Pick someone who cares more about your dreams than your comfort. Pick someone who will push you when you need pushing and support you when you need support. Fifth, remember your reasons. Write down why your goals matter to you. Not just what you want to achieve, but why you want to achieve it. What will it mean for your family, your future, your sense of self? When you're tired, read those reasons. Let them fuel you when your energy tank is empty. I keep a list of my reasons in my wallet. Not my goals, my reasons, because goals are what you want, reasons are why you want them, and why is always stronger than what. When I'm tired and tempted to quit, I read that list. I remember why I started. I remember who depends on me. I remember what's at stake. And suddenly I'm not too tired anymore. Sixth, celebrate small wins. Every time you push through tiredness, acknowledge it. Pat yourself on the back. Say, I did it. I moved when I didn't feel like moving. Why? Because you're building a new identity. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't let feelings dictate actions. You're becoming reliable, disciplined, unstoppable. But here's the most important strategy of all. Understand that this is about more than just getting things done. This is about who you're becoming. Every time you force yourself to move when you feel tired, you're building character. You're building mental toughness. You're building the kind of strength that will serve you for the rest of your life. Think about the people you admire most. I guarantee they've all learned this lesson. They've all had moments when they were tired, discouraged, ready to quit. But they moved anyway. They understood that extraordinary results require ordinary people to do extraordinary things, especially when they don't feel like it. I think about athletes who train when they're sore, artists who create when they're uninspired, entrepreneurs who work when they're exhausted, parents who give when they're depleted. They all understand the same truth. How you feel is not who you are. And here's something beautiful that happens when you consistently move despite tiredness. You start to have more energy. It seems backward, but it's true. Energy creates energy. Action creates action. The more you move, the more you want to move. The more you push through resistance, the weaker resistance becomes. I've seen this transformation in thousands of people over the years. They start by forcing themselves to move when they're tired. It's hard at first. It feels unnatural. But they keep doing it and something shifts. They start to trust themselves. They start to believe in their ability to follow through. They start to see themselves as the kind of person who doesn't make excuses. But the transformation goes deeper than just having more energy or getting more done. When you consistently act despite tiredness, you fundamentally change your relationship with discomfort. You stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to move through. You stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and start seeing them as detours. You stop seeing challenges as problems and start seeing them as opportunities to prove what you're made of. I remember reading about a study where they took two groups of people and gave them both the same physical challenge. One group was told it would be easy, the other group was told it would be difficult. Guess which group performed better? The group that expected it to be difficult. Why? Because they prepared mentally for the challenge. They didn't expect it to be comfortable, so they weren't surprised when it wasn't. They were ready to push through because they knew pushing through would be required. That's what happens when you train yourself to move despite tiredness. You stop expecting life to be comfortable. You stop being surprised when things get difficult. You develop what I call challenge immunity. You become the kind of person who sees a difficult situation and thinks, good, this is where I separate myself from the pack. And then something amazing happens. They stop being tired all the time. Not because their circumstances changed, but because they changed. They develop strength. They develop resilience. They develop the ability to create energy through action rather than waiting for energy to create action. And here's what most people don't understand about energy. It's not something you have or don't have. It's something you create or don't create. Physical energy comes from physical action. Mental energy comes from mental action. Emotional energy comes from emotional action. The more you use, the more you have. The less you use, the less you have. It's like a muscle. Use it and it gets stronger. Don't use it and it gets weaker. Most people are walking around with weak energy muscles because they've been avoiding the very activities that would strengthen them. They've been waiting to feel strong instead of doing the things that create strength. But there's an even deeper transformation that happens. When you consistently do what you say you'll do, regardless of how you feel, you develop what psychologists call self-efficacy. That's just a fancy way of saying you believe in your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. You stop worrying about whether you'll be able to handle future challenges because you have evidence that you can handle present challenges. This confidence transforms everything. It changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you approach problems. It changes how you set goals. Instead of asking, can I do this, you start asking, how will I do this? Instead of hoping you'll succeed, you expect to succeed because you've proven to yourself that you do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. This is the secret that separates the successful from the unsuccessful, the fulfilled from the frustrated, the achievers from the dreamers. It's not that successful people don't get tired. It's that they don't let tiredness make their decisions for them. Think about your life right now. What would change if you stopped letting tiredness dictate your actions? What would you accomplish if you moved forward regardless of how you felt? What kind of person would you become if you kept your promises to yourself, especially when it was hard? The answer to those questions is your future. Not someday, not when you feel ready, right now, today, this moment. Because here's the truth that will either inspire you or haunt you. Every day you don't move when you're tired is the day you're choosing to stay where you are. Every day you give into comfort is the day you're saying no to growth. Every day you let feelings make your decisions is the day you're becoming weaker instead of stronger. But every day you push through is the day you're becoming the person you were meant to be. Every day you move despite tiredness is a day you're building the life you really want. Every day you choose discipline over comfort is a day you're writing a story you'll be proud of. I want you to think about the person you'll be 5 years from now if you start making this change today. Think about the confidence you'll have. Think about the trust you'll have in yourself. Think about the respect others will have for you when they see someone who always follows through. Think about the dreams you'll have accomplished simply because you refuse to let tiredness stop you. Now think about the person you'll be 5 years from now if you don't make this change. Think about the regrets you'll carry. Think about the opportunities you'll have missed. Think about the goals that will still be just dreams because you couldn't push through when it mattered. The choice between these two futures is made every single day. It's made every time you feel tired and have to decide what to do next. It's made in the small moments, the quiet moments, the moments when nobody's watching and nobody will know except you. Here's something I want you to remember. The world is full of talented people who never reached their potential because they couldn't push through when they were tired. It's full of smart people who had great ideas but never acted on them because action required discomfort. It's full of people with dreams who are still dreaming because they never learned to move when they didn't feel like moving. But the world is also full of ordinary people who achieved extraordinary things simply because they refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. They're not special. They're not superhuman. They just made a decision that their dreams were more important than their temporary discomfort. And here's what I know about you. You have that same capacity inside you. You have the ability to push through tiredness. You have the strength to act despite how you feel. You have what it takes to join the ranks of those who don't let feelings dictate their future. The only question is whether you'll choose to use it. So when that moment comes today, and it will come, remember this conversation. Remember that your future self is counting on the choice you make in that moment. Remember that champions aren't people who never get tired. They're people who move anyway. Remember that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary isn't talent or luck. It's what you do when you don't feel like doing anything. So let me ask you again, when was the last time you felt tired and did what you needed to do anyway? If it's been too long, today is your chance to change that. Today is your chance to prove to yourself that you're stronger than your feelings. Today is your chance to start building the habit that will transform your life. Don't wait until you feel like it. You might never feel like it. Don't wait until you have more energy. Energy comes from action, not the other way around. Don't wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll have the same choice, and if you don't make the right choice today, you probably won't make it tomorrow either. Start now. Start small if you have to, but start Move when you don't feel like moving. Act when you don't feel like acting. Push when you don't feel like pushing. Because that's when it counts. That's when you grow. That's when you become the person who can handle anything life throws at you. Your tired feelings are temporary. Your results are permanent. Your comfort is fleeting. Your character is forever. Your excuses are easy. Your achievements are earned. The choice is yours. Will you let tiredness control your life, or will you control your tiredness? Will you be ruled by how you feel, or will you rule over how you feel? Will you stay where you are, or will you move toward where you want to be? The answer to that question will determine everything. Choose wisely. Choose strength. Choose growth. Choose to move when you feel tired. Your future self is counting on it.